Welcome to the Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts. We are your international headquarters for resources and ideas and insight in relation to the 9 elements of holistic wellness. Join us as we interview local and international wellness experts and learn how you can implement and improve one element or dimension of wellness at a time. Our experts will share their practical tips on wellness in one of these core areas: emotional, intellectual, occupational, physical, environmental, financial, spiritual, social, or habitual. We created our family of podcasts as a resource for anyone who is looking to integrate the 9 elements of holistic wellness into their daily lives. Welcome to the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I have my new bestie, Janine Kim, with me. Janine and I warn you, we're going to have a fun conversation. It's going to be a little irreverent and a little punny funny. So, Janine, welcome to the show. Would you tell my audience who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jeff. Hello, everybody. I am Janine Kim. I am a mystic, and a mystic really covers a whole bunch of ground. In what I do is that I am an intuitive. I was born that way, but I've learned how to take these skills and bring it to astrology, mediumship, where I talk to dead people. And I'm a holistic health practitioner, a certified yoga instructor, and a teacher and a writer.
I love it. And I'm sorry, Janine, but my favorite joke when somebody says they're a medium, I say I'm a large. So
You know
we
what?
had to get that out of the way.
I've never heard that. I'm so happy you said it. I honestly have never heard that. So yay. Thanks, Jeff.
We had to add some puns here.
Of course.
Now we're going to jump in. Let's talk about what you do, because I think one of the biggest challenges in the world is trying to understand, when somebody's an expert, they know what they do. But for somebody who's new to this world, what do you do?
So it's interesting because what I do for a living is actually who I am. So what I mean by that is that I was ever since as long as I can remember, little girl, I've been able to sense the world differently. And um, I'm a redhead, for those who can't see that. So that adds to it. Really, it does. It adds to how our biology meets the world. But in my ability to sense things, I've learned how to really use that and bring it to people to hear who they are, kind of beyond what their mind thinks. I could sense certain things in their body if they're going through something health wise, physical. And I can even tap into aspects of them that originated from beyond this lifetime, like old traumas or masteries that come with them. And of course, I can speak to people who've passed, who've gone on. So I'm able to work with clients and bring them wisdom on such a deep level, deep within themselves, that they're like, hey, nobody else knew that. I can't believe you just said that. Or, messages from their loved ones that really give them peace. And that is my passion, is to bring people peace and alignment within themselves.
I love that. And I mean, that's the thing. We all need peace and alignment.
Right.
Now you use a an approach. So let's talk about past lives and how can that help? So you talk about diving deep into the soul through past lives. How does that help somebody on their healing journey today?
What I've learned to do with the ability to tap into past lives, it's one thing just to say, yes, okay, this is the story of who I was. Isn't that cool? Isn't that fun? That's one part of it. And I love that. Like who doesn't love that? I mean, there may be
Yeah.
somebody, but what I love to do with it is I love for it to give us a message as to what is going on today. And so most oftentimes, let's say, for instance, somebody is going through a dynamic or a situation in their life and it's on repeat. Even, you keep losing a job, you keep same relationship, something like that,
Yeah.
and
Same loops, same mistakes, same.
same loop, right? Well, you could do all this healing work on the inside. And again, that's all my background. I'm a holistic health practitioner, where you do the yoga, You do the somatic experiencing where you get your body regulated. You are mindful, you meditate, you get into all those ways. But then all of a sudden the situation comes again and you feel shameful. And this is what I really find out in the world today. They're like, people say, my clients say, I've done law of attraction, I've done the yoga pose, I've done this, I've done that, but I'm still in it. And I'm like, I say, okay. And so the past life comes in and it shows you where that origination point is. And I share it, and I share the name of the person, the place, all that. And then what you're able to do, what my clients are able to do then, is to separate out. Something happens when they hear it. They're like, oh my gosh, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not somebody who just doesn't get it. I've been dealing with this for lifetimes, but it's coming up again because I'm more equipped today than ever to take it further. And just something about taking that shame off. And I don't say past life for escapism reasons. I don't want people to hear a past life and then just denounce their issues. Heck no, I'm about diving all into it. This is about having an organized place to put it, like up on a shelf, and to revere it. But then to see that there is some separation there, so some real healing can actually take place.
I love that, and I think a lot of people get so into their problem. We're staring right at it, and we keep banging our head on it. I like the idea, and for the record, I'm not smart enough to know, the truth of the universe. I'm a finite being with infinite goals, and I'd like to explore the universe. What I'm hearing, and I'm just going to share this with you because it's knocking on my head. In our current lives, I'm a big fan of Einstein's definition of insanity, which is doing the same things over and over, getting the same result. And I am actively self-aware, and I want to make sure I'm not doing that in this life. And I can't help but feel that karma exhausts me, because if I have to keep, without fixing those problems, you're doomed to repeat them. Is that a fair comment?
That's absolutely it. And I tell my clients all the time that we have to meet that same threshold in order to step over it. So the way I like to phrase that is I call it the summer house in the Hamptons. So it's not like you have your regular home and then you're like, oh, I got my magical beach house in the Hamptons. And you go there every summer and you have your favorite super thick book, right? And you go to sit down and read it and you never finish it because it's really long and that's what you like about it. But every time when you come back the next summer, you don't, at least I know I don't, pick up where I left off. I go back a chapter because I need to immerse myself back into the details of the story, like really get into emotional feeling mode, because emotion is the root of who we are. So once I'm in it, oh gosh, I'm all in it. Then I go all the way to where I left off. Now, again, I don't stop there. I know I have more time now to keep going.
Yeah.
So when I see your past life, I see where you put the bookmark in last time for whatever reason. Yeah. And then in the first parts of your life and even the current dynamics, there's no shame in any of it. You are just rereading some stuff. You are just rereading and you want to feel it, man. You got to live it. So then when you finally move past it, there's a threshold of growth. That's the empowerment. That's the medicine and the release.
I love that. And, I actually interviewed somebody yesterday who said, I don't remember the science or the expert, but there's science out there that says that whether you believe in past life or not, there's evidence that we remember the childhood traumas, that there's a memory of maternal trauma. So if our mother or our maternal mother, grandmother, if they had extreme trauma, that gets carried through. I don't fully understand how that works. Some people say there is a science to prove it, but I think, whatever it is, and, I know there's some deeply uptight trench coats or lab coats that say, it's just memories we created, in this life to justify our failures or whatever. Whatever the root is, exploring it. And I love the idea. Like for me, I love absorbing a book. I take it off the shelf. I read it. I reread favorite parts. I underline. Um, what would that do to somebody if we were that intentional and deliberate with our life, as opposed to just a book that we left at our mythical beach house in the Hamptons?
It empowers. It completely and utterly empowers you. And this is what I fully believe. You've actually landed right on the crux of a belief of mine, a core belief, is that this current paradigm, is crumbling right now. And the new paradigm is no longer the chase, the get, even getting healed or getting the job or the degree or whatever. That's like a finish line. Like we just think that it's a finish line, where the new paradigm is the paradigm shift is a priority shift. So if you were to kind of, like you said, deep dive into yourself like a book, earmark certain things that you love, reread certain chapters, that's what it's all about. And it's not narcissistic. It is, how you do anything is how you do everything. So the more you, Temet Noske, know thyself, right?
Yeah.
Then you know who you are and who you are not in the world. And you could look at charges differently or triggers in an entirely different way. You would look at that and say, ooh, there's a story there. There's a story there, versus saying, oh my gosh, I can't feel that. Get me out of here.
And I think that's, again, the difference. I don't care what the origin of the reflection is.
Right.
If we analyze it and we discharge the negative energy, and
discharge.
I'm one of those weird people, I don't have good and bad experiences. I have life lessons. I have, I don't have struggles. I have challenges, or I have experiences is my new word. But the reality is there's a famous philosopher, something like the life unanalyzed was not worth living or something. And I think, how do we become better human beings if we're not having that reflective, introspective moments? And, I love that you said it's not narcissism, because I think, there's a lot of negative words around, mental health and, whatever your methodology for mental health is. If somebody, I don't need to understand the math and the science of what Janine does. If her and I have a conversation and I'm able to analyze something and put it on the shelf and take away the negative energy from it, that's going to free me up. It's kind of like we're taking all the clutter out of our attic and making room for the guest house that we're going to bring our friends in.
Well, it's funny that you should say that, because one of
Can
my
I step into something fun?
You stepped into something awesome, man. I'm in the process of writing a book right now. It's called Dark Matters. That is hopefully to get out sometime in the future. But a big piece of what I love to teach my clients is what I call spiritual hoarding, what you just touched on. And now, hoarding is obviously a thing. And when I see people, I see them as energy. And this isn't just spirituality, it's quantum physics. Everything is energy first. So if, say, for instance, I step into a house that has hoarding in it. It could be a 1,200 square foot home, loaded to the top. You can probably not hear somebody 5 feet away from you because it's so muffled.
Mm-hmm.
You clear that house, you could probably hear a pin drop from the farthest corners of each of the home, right? And it's the same thing here, is that until we go in here and really unpack everything that is there and have somebody kind of hold that sacred space for us and be with that, we unpack it. Until we do, we can't hear spirits. So many people say, well, how can you become psychic? And what I tell them is, I say, you get empty and then you trust, because empty is where you hear the message, but empty is also where that clutter you said lives. And so you got to deal with that first before you could really hear that bigger message.
You're literally the Marie Kondo for the soul. It's I can see you and her having a fun conversation.
I studied feng shui in China in 2001. And those of you astrology buffs, I have so much Virgo in my chart. You just nailed it, Jeff. I am the Marie.
For what it's worth, my boys and I, we identify on as neurodiverse, and there's some OCD in our world. And whenever my wife goes out for something to hang out with friends or whatever, we sit around and watch videos about people with OCD organizing their houses, and we all sit there and go, ah.
I am no right here. If my garage isn't done, like organized, I mean, life gets messy, but I mean, organized,
Yeah.
I can't breathe. Like I won't, I can't do it. It's too much for me. So I
I'll
get it.
sit out in my garage when it's -40 with the door open, organizing things, and my
Oh,
wife's like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "It's bothering me because I
right.
organize it, by size, by season.
Color. Yeah.
There might be some alphabetical. I'm not going to go there, but then she goes in there looking for something, and she just pulls things off the shelf, and I'm like,
Fabulous. All right.
just leave it. But
I'm right there with you, buddy.
yeah, he doesn't enjoy watching. And for the record, I think Khloe Kardashian might have
Yeah,
OCD. She claims to have it. I don't know. I don't care. But her kitchen, her storage room, her
pantry.
pantry.
Mhm. Refreshing.
When she puts those labels on, I just
Oh,
sigh of deep relief.
yeah.
But I have this overwhelming urge. My 14-year-old son wants me to buy one of those really expensive, $1,000 Cricut fancy label makers. And I'm like,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not saying no. I just need to know where I'd store the damn thing when I'm not using it. That was his question. He's like, Dad,
That's
where would we put it?
awesome. Oh, got to get a special place.
Yeah. And here's a little tip for the cry cut people: create a nice little box that it comes in, because the one I saw, either you got to save the box that it came with, or you got this weird shaped thing that doesn't go anywhere. So,
Let's make the nice box.
yeah, or I
Label
like
and all.
those
Label and all.
suitcases that have the foam insets, just
Oh,
have my
yes.
little.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mission
So,
Impossible it. Some Tom Cruisey. Yeah.
yeah,
Love it.
for $1,000, give me a
It's
container where I can
yes.
store it.
You gotta have that, man. It's worth it.
Yep. So that's my manifestation when I have my fancy house in the Hamptons. I'm gonna have a closet just for my storage and labeling stuff. Sorry to go nerdy on you, Janine, but
Oh, I love it. Are you kidding? Nope. You're
my
speaking my language.
my little heaven is the Container Store. I can walk
Yeah.
through that. And by the way, the
Mhm.
employees drive me nuts. I'm like, no, I'm not buying anything right now. I'm just enjoying the atmosphere. And I think they
Right.
get a little weirded out because when I travel, I'll spend 3-4 hours just looking at the boxes and the
Oh my
organization.
it's satisfying. It's
Yeah.
almost like those videos on YouTube of like those satisfying things just sitting in. No, I get it.
Yep.
It makes you
It's better
feel
than
good.
bubble wrap.
Yeah.
I promise.
It is. I'm with you on that. Yep.
Sorry, we went on a tangent, but I think that's the big thing is, you're helping people clear that clutter. And
Yeah.
I honestly, this is the way I view it. I don't care where the clutter came from. I just care that it's gone.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know, the beautiful thing about when you work with somebody in just the right way into finding past lives, I tell them, hey, I'm doing the heavy lifting here. I'm going in, I'm finding out who you were, what was going on, all that good stuff. And just being a witness to it is the healing. They don't need to. As a matter of fact, I even tell them it's not about carrying, oh, I was this in another life and overbearing that, like taking that with you too far. That's not the point. It's done. If you're looking at it, it's because it's outside of you. You are here to move beyond it. But we got to feel it. We got to label it. We got to name it in order to be able to let it go. Kind of like Maria Kondo. She made you look at every single thing because you can't. I mean, are you going to move into a place and say, oh, there's some boxes, you guys just throw them out for me, I don't care? No, you got to feel it. You
Yeah.
got to own that energy. And last thing I'll say is because everything is energy first, you have an energetic line to all these past lives that you've had, any other relationship, or even the things in your home. So that is why it's important to really consciously let that go, to cut ties with those in that way.
I love it. And, the reality is a friend of mine is very patiently trying to explain quantum energy to me. And I'm like, dude, you're going to have to dumb it down. Talk to me like I'm a 3-year-old. But
Right.
the reality is we are all ones and zeros. We were made from energy. And when we die, we come back to energy. I'm not smart enough to understand the universe in a single lifetime. But I'm willing to trust that, there are things I need to learn that I'm not going to, but I can just let it go through me. So, Janine, you and I could talk all day, and unfortunately, we did talk all day. So
We did.
now I will have you back on the show. How can people work with you? If you have a few minutes, I'm going to go over time, which is a no-no, but you and I.
Thank you.
So how can people get to know you? How can they discover you? How can they work with you? What does that look like?
Well, you could just head on over to my website, JanineKim.com. But I work with people either on one-off sessions, whether it's an intuitive, holistically focused, or astrological. And I do one-on-one mentoring as well, which is more of like packages. I have an Into the Mystic program for those of you Van Morrison fans out there. It's really about unlocking those past lives out of each chakra. And also ancestral alchemy, where you touched on it, Jeff, where you work with the energy of the ancestors and any of the trauma that they've had as well. I'm also having a retreat in March of 2024 in Santa Fe, New Mexico, with Dr. Jeffrey Tarrant, who is also into neuroscience, and we're mixing spirituality and science together. And so you can head on over to my website and find that there. It's called Becoming Psychic.
I love it. And I will share the link in the show. Janine, we could have talked about a million things. Is there anything you'd like to share with my people before we wrap up for today?
Yes, I always love to give a takeaway is to begin to orient your awareness in the world to you first and start to play with that. What would it be like if I sat with empty inside of me? Does a bunch of stuff come up? And if it does, again, what if that was good? What if we wanted to go towards that, write it out, talk it out, acknowledge it, let it out, do that little feng shui on your own. And then once it gets empty like that, you can start to trust yourself a little bit more. So empty and trust, little by little by little, going with what that means for you throughout the day. So give that a try.
I love it. And, Janine, I'm thinking of somebody I know who is a literal shopaholic. And it's funny because when their cupboards and closets and fridge and freezer start to overflow, they get really anxious and angry. And then I was trying to figure out why they were doing that. And then I realized that it was because they didn't have room to buy any more stuff. And they said something that triggered me. They said, I don't care. You take this. I don't care if you throw it in the garbage. I just want it out of my house. And what I realized was the release for them, and I want your take on this. The release for them was having the extra space to buy more stuff. And that was so they could avoid looking inside and being with that empty, because I can tell, when you hear their anger and you hear their words, there's a hurt inner child or, past life in there that they're just, putting their fingers in their ears and saying, la, 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 not listening.
Yeah. That's exactly what that is. And you hit the nail on the head. Empty is an interesting spot. And it's typically the space we want to get really deep, but I won't go too deep because I know we're finishing up here, but it's
you go as deep as you need to, my dear.
Are you sure? Okay. Yeah. It's the space right before death.
Mm-hmm.
As well as other things. Mm-hmm. But what happens then, of course, is that feeling tone is part of it. On top of, like I said, when you get empty, it's like your kids, you sit down to take a break and they're like, oh, dad's resting or mom's resting. And then they all come over to ask you something.
They right? Notice that exact moment.
They do. And the same thing with our unresolved stuff on the inside, right? That's all it is. It's just energy. And it's like, oh, a space. And so what I love to do, I go there first, man. I'm like, let's go get it. And once we build up a consistent relationship with empty, then when we need to use empty for something like writing a book, like making music, like creating something, we won't feel overwhelmed or scared or disliking of it. The stuff will say, you know what? Dad always comes to check on us.
Yeah.
Or mom always comes and checks on us. So you know what? I could let that wait till later. I'll be met later and I'll let more artistry, creativity flow.
Love it. I love it. All right, my final question, and I promise everyone Janine will be back at least 10,000 times. I make space in my world for people that make me laugh, and Janine has done that in spades. So we have your website. Is there anywhere else people can follow you, connect with you? And by the way, for those who are watching this, I'm going to throw this out to the universe. Janine's first book will be out in time for Christmas, and her second and third books, I'm going to throw this out, will be done by the end of February. No pressure.
Oh, that's exciting. That felt so good when you said that, Jeff. Yay.
I'm going to share something. When I work with people who are aspiring to be authors, they need to wrap their head around, I am an author. And that's, there's a baggage that needs to be cleared out. So having that identity of I am an author is very powerful versus I hate it when people say I'm a struggling author, because it's like you've just doomed yourself. You need to go see Janine and clear that clutter out.
What is the story there? Why does that say that?
Yeah.
Right? I know. I hear you.
So back to the question, is there somewhere people can go, or is your website the best place?
Website is really great. LinkedIn is also good. And I also am on Instagram. Now, I'll be honest with everybody. I'm fairly new in the social media outlet. I've been in a cave for the past almost 30 years working with clients, but I'm getting the courage. I put on my big girl boots and I've walked out, and I'm out there in the social world. So be kind. And you can find me, Janine Kim Mystic. That's it.
I love it. Well, Janine, thank you. My heart and soul are filled from having our conversation today, and I can't wait to read your books.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I can't wait either. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to either click the link below or scan the QR code to register and listen to other episodes of our podcast. Or if you think your business or you would be a great guest to be on our show, we're always looking for experts in one of the 9 elements of holistic wellness. We'd love to have you. You can either click the link below or you can scan the QR code and complete our speaker intake form. Thank you, and to your wellness.